Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome back to another unit review for Battlefields of Mana. And folks, we're kicking off Mercenaries. Mercenaries. I'm going to try to, relay future Mercenary videos back to this one so I don't have to explain this a thousand times. So Mercenaries can either be single figures like this bard or full units of cavalry or infantry. Mercenaries, unlike other units like a core unit of archers or heavy cavalry where you can have up to 4 of each in your army, mercenaries you're only allowed 1 of each. Now both players can have, a bard in their army or whatever, but only up to 1. Mercenaries are acquired by players to use in their armies first by defeating them. So if a player says, I really want a bard in my army, then the other player will put together an army of marauders and include the mercenary that the other player wants to eventually include in their army. In order to even have the option of including a mercenary, any given mercenary in your army as a player, you first have to defeat them. So you'll have to find an opponent who will put together a marauder army, include the mercenary unit or single figure that the other player wants to have the option of using in future battles. And then the player who wants to use them has to beat that army with their own army of Regal Guard or Lunar Knights or whatever. And then if they do, from then on, they'll have the option of including, for example, this bard in their future army. So let's take a closer look at, since he's only one single figure. He's very cool. He has like a bill, a polearm bill with a horn. Sword sheath next to him. I just love this figure. It's freaking awesome. Okay, so what does a bard do? Why would you maybe want a bard in your army? Well, attack dice 2, no extra combat strength, armor 2, so only 3s or better can hit him, no defensive special abilities, no range, movement is 4 inches, so he can move up to 4 inches and forego any kind of a combat that turn, or he can move twice up to 8 inches. And his initiative is a +5. So when he rolls his initiative die in close combat, he adds 5 to the result. His health is 4, so he has 4 points of health. His ability is what makes him amazing. So as a single figure, unit commanders, marauder sergeants, when they are attached to a unit, they are mandatorily attached to a unit at the beginning of the game and they can never leave. Other single figures like this bard can come and go as they please. You can either automatically attach them to a unit at the beginning of the game, or you can leave them as a single figure. They can roam the battlefield on their own. Of course, that's dangerous. They can become a target that way by ranged attacks. Whereas if a single figure is attached to the unit, they can't be singled out unless they're in close combat. But the bard can attach himself to a unit, and not only will that unit then get a +5 initiative bonus, which is probably better than any initiative bonus they already had, but they also get the rally ability. So when a unit has the rally ability, or a single figure with rally is attached to a unit, like this bard attaching himself to a unit, this allows the unit to reform to face any direction as many times as it wants during its movement within the movement phase. Additionally, this allows an engaged unit to change its facing without having to first break away. These reforms and face changes do not cost movement actions. So essentially, attaching a bard to a unit allows them to reform as many times as they want during a movement action. Normally, you'd move and they may want to wheel to change your facing, or use an entire movement action to reform, which is what it normally costs. But if you have a bard in the unit, you can move up to, move some inches, reform for free, then continue moving, reform again for free, then continue moving. So it's a huge movement saver. And normally, if you are flanked in the rear or the side by an opposing unit, if he was in a unit of something else and they got flanked, you'd have to roll to see if you could change your facing. But with him in the unit, you automatically get to reform. Now, that also means if you are engaged to multiple opponents, normally you can't do that. Normally, in order to reform, if you are engaged with multiple opponents, you'd have to try to break away. And that's dangerous. That's an initiative roll-off. And if you fail, for each unit you failed to beat in the roll-off, they each get attacks against you. And having a bard in the unit means you can break away. I mean, not break away, but reform, change your facing during the movement action of a turn, even when engaged to multiple opponents. So having a bard just makes your unit so much more mobile. Granted, they're not adding too much to your attack or defense, but they are adding a lot to your initiative. Plus, they have 4 hit points themselves. And don't forget, single figures like this, if you do single them out in combat, they do get an extra defense die. That's one of the things unit commanders typically get, but also non-warlord, actually I think even warlords. Any single figure in a unit that gets singled out in close combat gets an extra defense die. So, yep, even though his defense armor itself isn't the best, he does have 4 HP. He'll get an extra defense die if he gets singled out. But what he brings to a unit is huge for only 2 points. All right, folks, that is it. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been a review of the first mercenary, a bard for Battlefields of Mana. I truly appreciate it, and until next time.